How are you? Can you guys hear me well or? Okay, guess not.
Well, he's connecting. We'll get there. Dr. Ingber's there.
You guys can hear me, right?
Yep.
Okay. How are you?
Fine.
I sent out a reminder because I know you wanted to be reminded, so I did. So
I'm here. I was reminded. Thank you.
Dr. Weinstein, you can hear me, right? Okay, he's trying to figure it out.
Yeah, he's on. And we're on.
Okay.
We've got
all right.
yeah,
I mean,
hear each other
I
and they can all hear.
I mean, yeah, I guess this is it.
All right. Let's do it.
So, Dr. Wang, if you would like to take over.
Sure, no problem. And thank you guys for coming. Thank you, Giovanni and Dr. Katz for having me. I appreciate it. Let me go into speaker view, and then I am going to just mute everybody, and
Okay.
you can unmute yourselves. So I just want to see, Giovanni, you guys can hear me still? Thumbs up, you can hear me? Good. All right, so let me share the screen. And Giovanni, I got the recording going, so that's good. Let me share my screen. And I'm going to share that screen. Good. So now you should see a, let me just bring lots of computers over here. Let me just bring this over here so I can see. All right, so everyone can see dental website development in 2021, blue screen. Okay, so what I'll do is, it's a smaller group, so I'm going to open up the chat window here. So if people have questions, feel free to jump it into the chat. And if I don't answer it during the talk, I'll answer it after. So let's get started. So we're going to talk about dental website development in 2021, concepts, pearls, and pitfalls. I recognize a bunch of you from previous lectures, so it's nice to be back. Nice to see you all again, post-COVID. All right, so you can see the next slide. You can see me on the next slide. Slides are advancing, yes? Okay, good. All right, so for those of you who don't know me, I'm Dr. David Wank. I'm a general dentist in New York City. I am the CEO of Short Hills Design. I'm the author of the Small Business Web Design Workbook. I've got a small business internet marketing Facebook group. I'm triple certified in Google Analytics, and I lecture for WordPress in the last couple of years. WordPress is one of the content management systems that we use to build websites, and I've lectured at their conferences on how to work with healthcare clients to build websites. So here's my contact information. I will put it up at the end. I put up my Dentaltown stuff here too, because I'm also pretty active on Dentaltown. I write the web development CE for Dentaltown, and I'm on the editorial advisory board. So that's why I put that in there for Dentaltown. In terms of my disclosures, I don't accept any money from any vendors, and any products or services that I might recommend in any lecture are from my personal experience or from that of colleagues who I trust who use the services, and I have no affiliate relationships. So anything that I might recommend to anybody is for those reasons, and I have no, I don't like the trend in dentistry. I don't mind dentists marketing to dentists or physicians or whatnot. I don't like it when we market to each other and we don't have our disclosures. That I don't like. So I think it's important that we know, it's all even there. So we're going to talk about tonight, we're going to do an introduction. I'm going to talk about the Small Business Web Design Workbook, which is free. We're then going to go over some of the basics about your website, design and development, some hints about the process. And this can matter even if you already have a website, obviously. Then we're going to talk about monthly services and the next steps. And if we have time, we'll get into a little bit of SEO and Facebook marketing. Someone just entered. Giovanni, are you able to admit to the waiting room as a co-admin, or should I? Let me just admit them. I admitted it. It's fine. Okay. So the Small Business Internet Marketing, it's a Facebook group I have. I might get in there, once or twice a week. It's really just if something comes up, if there are tips or tricks or people have questions. It's about 350, 400 people in there. So it's a nice group and it's not too crazy. If you want to jump in there, you're certainly welcome to join. Questions. I will stay on Zoom after the talk for Q&A. And certainly, obviously, if you have questions, put them in the chat. And I'm just letting some more people in. All right. Next. Okay, introduction. So this is a course where I want you to understand the big picture, and the technical level is that there is no technical level. Some of the things I say might be a hair technical, but at the end of the day, you don't need to understand that to understand what's going on in the lecture. The take-home message is like a diamond, in that what I want you to do is I want you to understand the why, not necessarily the how it's done. You know, if you're going to buy a diamond for somebody, you know, you want to know the color, the clarity, all that good stuff, but you don't necessarily need to know what tool they use to mine it, or, you know, what box they ship it into the distributor. That doesn't matter. That's certainly interesting information, but it isn't necessary to get a nice diamond. So the Small Business Web Design Workbook. Originally, it was the Web Design Workbook for dentists, but as we started to get more clients that aren't necessarily dentists, physicians, attorneys, other small businesses, the concepts in the book apply across, you know, all small businesses. It's like a crown. You know, every crown I prep is exactly the same, except for the little parts of the crown that isn't exactly the same. But anyone who's prepped a crown or made a rest seat or done, you know, done an endo, it's pretty much exactly the same thing every time, just with variations based on the specific situation. And no, I don't prep my anteriors like my molars, so no. But it's a non-technical guide for you or your team member. It is not a do-it-yourself book, and it's what you need to know before you rebuild a website or invest in a website, and it's completely company agnostic. Oh, there's someone's raising their hand. Yes, hold on. Let me see if I can. Hold on, I'm unmuting you. All right. I am unmuting you, but it doesn't want to. All right. Are we? You can unmute your audio. If you're raising your hand and you have a question, you can unmute your audio. All right, it's not letting me unmute you, so I'm going to keep going, and then if you can put it in the chat box, because it's not letting me unmute you for some reason. Yvonne, if you can try and unmute him. Okay, but if you can put it in the chat.
Which, okay.
I can't unmute Galaxy Tab A for whatever reason. So I'm gonna keep going. Okay, so, but the book is free. You can feel free to download it. It is, I'm just gonna mute you. Okay, it's free to download, but it's gonna give you an overview of the process for you or your staff, at least be able to talk to vendors and understand what vendors are talking about. Okay. So the Small Business Internet Marketing Workflow. And this is the workflow that I developed 10 years ago. And it really puts it into perspective. And the reason I built it like this is because, you know, in dental school, when I was learning denture, I didn't understand why, you know, here I am border molding in phase 2, but then what does that have to do with whether this denture fits at the end? I didn't get it. And I had to do about 1 million dentures before I started to understand why that was. And so, you know, like anything else, it was a step-by-step process, but I wanted to know, how come what I'm doing in step 2, how does that affect step 4? And I didn't understand that. And so I lay this out because it's important to understand where this all fits in the process. And so people will ask me, you know, well, should I do SEO? Well, or Facebook marketing, but if you don't have a website that's ready for that, you're wasting your time. And so that's why I wanted to build out this workflow so people understand where things are in the process. So, because you know what, we're not trained, whether it's dental school, medical school, or law school, we're not trained how to do business. We're trained how to do our craft and not business. So phase 1 is initial website planning, development, and setup. So no matter what you do, you want to build a website to Google standards. Now, you've heard that before. And what Google standards means is Google has said there's a certain way we want a website to be built. There are no secrets. There's no, well, I'm friends with this one at Google, so your site's going to be better. That doesn't exist. There are a list of things. It's like anything else. What makes a car work? You know, an engine, a transmission, brakes, seats, steering wheel, and gas. So every car is a variation on those things. So same thing with the website. You know, they look at things like the speed, like the page load time. They look at the text or the content that's on your website. They look at your competitors. That's huge. A lot of how you show up on a search engine has to do with your competitors. If you're in the middle of San Francisco with 300 people in the same building who are dentists, you're going to have a harder time than if you're in the middle of Montana, you're the only person, within 50 miles. So Google standards, I talk about it in the book, but the idea is to build the website in a way that Google expects you to build it. Now, does that mean it's the right way? Maybe not, but Google has said this is what it wants. And unfortunately, we have to listen if we want to be in that conversation. So phase 2 is search engine optimization, social media, pay-per-click, anything that you do to drive traffic to your website. Doesn't matter what it is. I used to joke that you can stand outside your office in a pirate outfit and color your teeth in, with a black marker. If that sells veneers, then who am I to tell you otherwise? But the idea here in phase 2, here's a web page, here's your header, here's your footer, and here's your web page that's built, a certain way to Google standards. You're going to drive traffic to your website. That is the goal. Obviously, the end goal is to get, new patients, new patients, and then to drive revenue for your practice. But certainly, this phase 2 is all about what we're going to do to get people to here. And the reason I break it up into 2 steps is because analytics and tracking, that's here. So now here's that same website, that same web page. Let me change colors here. That's that same web page. And what we're going to do is, I don't want my highlighter. Let's use green. And so what we're going to do is when someone lands on this web page, what is it that they're doing? And so if they get to this web page and they make a phone call, that's supposed to be a telephone. Oh, I messed up there we go. If they go to this web page, that's supposed to be a telephone, and they make a phone call, that website's great. If they go to this web page and they go home and they leave, we didn't do such a good job. So even if we spend all this time in phase 2 driving people to this web page, what matters is what are they going to do when they get there? And that's what website analytics conversion optimization is about. Because if you have this web page and you have, let's say, one person visit the web page and one person calls and becomes a new patient, it's great, we're doing something right. But if we have 100 people come to the website and nobody becomes a new patient, then clearly something's wrong. So in this case, with 100 visitors and no contact requests, no phone calls, either they're the wrong visitors or we have the wrong messaging. And that's a problem. And so the last thing I want to do is then have you spend money driving traffic, to a web page that we know. If we have 100 people visiting and nobody does anything, and if we have 1,000, I don't think it's going to make a difference. Whereas here, we'll make a better number. If we've got 10 visitors, we have 2 people that become new patients or get in touch with us, then maybe it makes sense now. Okay, now if we drive 100 people, we'll get 20, I hope. But that's kind of where this is. So before you start, so when anybody comes to me and says, David, we want to do work, we want to do this, the first thing I always do with analytics is a traffic versus messaging study. I charge $500 for it, and what it does is it says, what is the problem here? Because it's not necessarily here, right? Because patients will come into you and say, I want veneers, and they smile, and all they have is 8 and 9 that are +3 mobile, and they think they're a veneer case, and you're like, no. So obviously, what you've got to do whenever you have a problem with your website, or you think you do, you've got to make a diagnosis. And the diagnostic step is here. And so that way, when we see what the problem is, then we can say, well, wait a minute, should we be working on driving more traffic because your messaging works? Or your messaging is terrible. So what we have to do is figure out what's wrong. Maybe you need a call to action button that says do something. Maybe we have to say, accepting new patients or something like that, new patients. So that's why it's so important to understand where we are. And don't get, I don't want to say nervous. It's unnerving talking about, the conversion optimization, but it's what we do every day. Because if you get a new composite in the office, you're not trying it on every single patient. I mean, right now I use Temp Grip, NE, and I hoard it in my office because I lock it in my drawer so nobody steals it from me, my Temp Grip. But I didn't always use that. I used Tempon for a while, NE, and I use Zone. One day the rep brings, whatever it was, Temp Grip. I used it on like 1 or 2 people who like to, I think they want to pull their own temps out just because they're bored and they want to come into the office. But people who live around the corner, and I tried it on them first. So if they spit their temps out, someone's not coming from Florida who's mad at me, or I have a couple of patients in Pennsylvania, I don't want them coming for 2 hours because I was testing cement on them. So certainly you're going to figure out what works in the office, and then you're going to use it. I remember when I was a resident 100 years ago, one of the instructors said that he did his first sinus lift on his mother-in-law. You know, he says, you know, how bad could it be? You know, and that's what he did. So you're always testing, you're always trying to see what works. And then phase 4 is maintenance and backups. Now, if you have a website, and we'll talk about it in a minute, like WordPress or something that lives in the cloud like that, it does have to be updated. Generally speaking, the hardest part of doing that is remembering to do it. We do it for our clients. Some of our clients want to do it themselves, but just make sure, you know, talk to your web person and say, web person, is our site being kept up to date? And then for backups, this is my wife's favorite slide, because on this slide, I make an angry face. And when you go to your web company and you ask them for a backup, that's what they're going to do. They're going to get angry at you, because they're going to think, that's like when someone asks us for the x-rays or a copy of the chart, they're going to think that means that you're leaving or you're upset with them. So they're going to be defensive. But you could say, I was at a CE with someone who they told me knows what he's doing, and you know, I'm just the dentist. I would like to have a backup of my website. Now, if you have a proprietary system, they might not be able to give it to you. But if it's WordPress, they should be able to give it to you. And if you have a question about it, you can always, you know, ask me after the talk or next week or whatever it is, and I can point you in the right direction. So because Google said so, there are certain things that we do because Google said so. And one of those is the SSL. If you're going to look, if you look in a browser and you look in that top bar where you type in the www, you're going to see right here, this is a very bad padlock. You're going to see that little padlock thing that you see when you go to the bank. That's a very bad padlock. And that says that the transaction is secure. And that makes sense when you're at the bank, you know, you're at Amazon. But why with a dental website where I'm just saying, I do crowns and veneers, why do I have to have this SSL certificate? And the reason is because Google said so. It's just, you know, it's one of those things. And it's a ranking factor, which means that if my web page is here, that's David, and your web page is here, why? That's you. And if all other things being equal, if mine has the SSL and yours doesn't, mine might rank higher than yours. Now, there's about 300 things that go into that ranking. And so I don't just say, well, do this one, do this one, do this one. I say, when we build a site, we're going to build the whole thing to Google standards, because it's easier, there's a problem later, to fix it, not having to go back and say, uh-oh, well, you know, what was the problem? So any questions so far? It's a small group, so we could take them. Okay, I think Dr. Weinstein is coming back in here. Okay, so the basics. And again, this applies whether you're building a website or you are revamping an old one. So everything for me is about a workflow. As a type A dentist and as a web person and a marketer, it's all about workflow. And so when you understand what you're doing with the workflow, things are a lot easier. So when you're building your website, the first thing you want to do is you just want to get everything set up. You want to have all of your accounts set up, your Google Analytics, things like that, all of those basics done. Then your avatar, which is, who am I marketing to? You know, if I'm building a site for pediatric dentists, it looks a lot different than a website I build for a prosthodontist, and different from someone. I have a client who does in-home dental services, and their website, for example, targets people who are probably 60 and older because they're looking for in-home dental care or in facility dental care for their much older adult parents. So we've got to make the fonts big and do things that would appeal to that audience. Whereas my pediatric dentist, you know, we're looking at moms and dads. Whereas the prosthodontist is probably somewhere, you know, in that range. So that's where we are. So it's important to understand who you're marketing to. And I can give you guys copies of these slides if you need. Then the message. What is our messaging? So a fee-for-service office has a very different message than an insurance practice. And it's important to a lot of people. One of the hardest parts that my fee-for-service clients have is, how can I prove to you that my crown is worth $2,000 when the insurance, you know, will cost $1,200, let's say. And that's sometimes a very hard sell for people who don't understand. And one of the things that you've got to market then if you're doing insurance, you can sometimes mark it on your fees. If you're fee for service, you've got to mark it on you. You are not competing on the lowest price ground. And you're not doing that with insurance either. But with insurance, part of your marketing is we accept your insurance to make you getting care is a lot easier. Whereas fee for service is, we're not going to take your insurance, but I'm worth it. And so messaging is huge. The structure, that's more for your web developer. That's to make sure the site is built to Google standards in a certain way. The design is self-explanatory, right? Any other outstanding accounts that you need. Then the content. When it comes to content, obviously, if you want to rank for veneers, it's not letting me write on that slide. Hold on, let me zoom out here a minute. I pushed the wrong thing. Okay, if you want to rank for veneers, oh, well, that's really weird. It won't let me. Okay, so if you want to rank for veneers, you've got to have a dedicated page about veneers. So if here's my website and I have a page about veneers, and here's your website, and you have a page that says veneers, dentures, crowns, partials, endo. When someone does a search for veneers, which is the more relevant website? The site where veneers is one of 10 topics, or the whole page is about veneers? So if you want to rank for any subject, have a dedicated page about it. And that is very, very important, because you have to imagine that anybody who wants to rank for something has to have a dedicated page. Just because you write veneers doesn't mean that you're going to rank for veneers. Okay, so the platform. That platform is what are we building it on? What is the infrastructure? These days, there's basically, well, there's three ways. There's proprietary, which I don't like. And again, the reason for proprietary is that if something happens to me, and we're going to talk about this, or something happens to that vendor, I've seen it happen, you're stuck. And you're tied into that vendor all the time. You know, I take our Honda CRV, I go to the dealer for oil change, but I get tires at Costco because it's non-proprietary. So WordPress, I generally like the most, and I'm going to show you why. But you couldn't use, like on a budget, you can use these site builders like Wix or the GoDaddy Builder. Those aren't terrific, but they're certainly better, than not having a website at all. Okay, so let's come over here. I want to switch to my different thickness. Okay. All right, so let me just move ahead here. Okay, so when you think about what a website looks like, this is what we see in a browser. And then over here is, there we go. That's what you see in a browser, and this is what Google sees. So Google, this is what every website looks to Google, just like that. Give or take, but that's what a website looks like behind the scenes. This is what you see in a browser. So what a user sees, and then what a search engine sees. And so what a content management system like WordPress does is, in the past, what would happen is that you would want to, let's say you want to change, let's say you wanted to change over here. Let's just change colors here. Okay, let's say you wanted to change the text right here. You call me up, you email me, I go here into the back end, and I change the code and upload it and we're good. But someone said, wait a minute, what if we had a kind of an in-between where somebody can set up a system for us, and this is what a content management system or WordPress is, and says, you know what if we do it so that anybody who can edit an email or can use Microsoft Word can add a web page or edit a page. So this happens to be the proactive web design page from Short Hills Design's website from my company. But to show you that editing in this is as easy as editing in Word. You don't have to see this. And that's the beauty of a content management system. And we have clients who do it all themselves and who get in touch with us when they get into trouble, which isn't that often, but they get in trouble, or who just want us to do it straight out. But the reason you want a content management system is because this is the way to go. The other thing that's nice is that, let's say I decide to upload an updated logo, I don't have to go to 100 different pages here and make the change. I can make it in one place in the content management system, and then it updates across. So WordPress versus proprietary. And like I said, WordPress is the world's leading content management system, and it's actually free, surprisingly, or not surprisingly. It's free software, but it's free in the sense that the roads are free to drive on. I know we pay taxes for roads, But so if you wanted to go and set up your own WordPress website, you certainly could. It doesn't cost anything. You have to pay for a domain, which is like 15 bucks a year. And that's, www.drwhatever.com, and your hosting, which is where your website lives on the internet. So, but other than that, and hosting could be, we charge $65 a month, but other than that, it's free to use. There's no fee to use WordPress. So why WordPress? It powers tens of millions of sites. And if you're into trouble, there's millions and millions of people who can help you. So you are, again, you're not stuck at the dealer that you've got to pay 800 bucks, for an oil change. It's the only game in town. It saves time and money. It's easy to learn and it's easy to make changes. You can have users with permissions. So for us, like, I'll be an administrator, but one of your staff members might be an editor, so he or she can add content to the website, but can't, push the nuke button by accident. And it's a very stable software. I was giving this lecture about a month ago, and someone said, well, what if I have someone just build a system for me? And I said, you could, but then you have 1 or 2 or 3 people testing a system, whereas with WordPress, because it's so big and so much part of the ecosystem, there's a lot of testing. It's almost like, it's like the vaccine. You're not getting a vaccine that I made in my basement that I've tested on, my friends, and that's it. You're getting a vaccine that's been tested by a ton of very, very smart people on a lot of different situations. So we know that it's stable. Again, it's open source. There's no fee. It's very easy to add features. You can work with images and videos. And that's some of the biggest challenges that our clients have, is adding images and videos. And for WordPress, it's as simple as drag and drop. And if you have videos, don't host them on your own website. You should host them either on YouTube, and you can embed them, or on Vimeo, and you can embed them. And, don't worry if that doesn't make sense, but you can say to your web people, are our videos hosted on one of these, or are we hosting them on our website? If you're hosting them on your own site, they're going to be slow. Also, as like a total side note, if you are using Facebook, which maybe you are, maybe you aren't, if your staff is using Facebook, always upload the videos directly to Facebook. There was a tendency to, have a video on YouTube and then copy and paste the link into Facebook, but you don't want to do that. What you want to do is you can upload it to YouTube or Vimeo, but upload the actual video to Facebook itself. Because when you do that, you're going to get data from Facebook, and Facebook is going to show it more organically than it would if you just copied a link from YouTube. And Facebook doesn't show a lot organically anymore, unfortunately. But that's, yeah, and why WordPress? Again, I've lectured for them twice, but again, I use it because it's the best system to use. There's no money. I don't get paid for loving WordPress. Ownership considerations is really important. So, and right now, don't panic if these don't line up with you, but you can certainly say to your web people, again, I was in a CE course and this is what it was. So I want you owning everything, whether you're my client or not my client, own it all. I want you to own your name. If I own your name and something happens to me and you call them up and you say, hi, I'm Dr. Smith and I need my name back, and they're going to say, I don't care if you're Winston Churchill. If you're not Dr. Wank, you're not getting the site. So you've got to own your own name. And in terms of your Google accounts, you've got to own your analytics accounts, your ad accounts, everything. Because I've had clients come over from other companies where we want to look at their data and say, okay, do we have a messaging problem, a traffic problem, or no problem? And they say, well, we're not giving you the data. Why? Well, we get the runaround. So don't do that. Also, own the content as much as you can. I have a website that I run, content, I didn't list this, contentdentist.com, where I sell content that I've written. I have an English degree from Tufts and a dental degree from Harvard, and I can write. So I sell content at contentdentist.com for something like 44 bucks a page. So, and we have an implant package, I think that's 6 pages, and blog posts for like 150 bucks or something. But again, I want you to own the content. So all of our clients own their own content, or if they are getting content from me, they're buying it from us, they own the license for that content. You own the images. You've got to do that. So for all of our clients, for putting images on the website, stock images, we'll go to iStock Photo. but the client owns the account, because you don't want to get a letter from Getty Images that says, hey, you used this image without our permission, and now you owe us $5,000. Same thing if you use a theme that you own the license and that you own the Facebook ads account. Because then one day what's going to happen is we're going to say, you know, Doc, looks like here you owe me $1. Say, no, I don't. Well, I own your account, so give me my $1. And companies will do that. So you can give administrator access or, you know, management access to whoever you want. But at the end of the day, you know, whether you're my client or not, I want you to own it yourself. It is yours. And even with a staff member you love, a staff member you trust, a staff member, you know, you were at their birth and you've known them for 300 years. I still want you or the office to own all of the accounts. And again, you have the backups that we talked about. Right, why? What happens if I move to South America? What if I go out of business? What if your family member opens up a web company and you want to work with them? What happens if you decide you hate my guts? So I want you to own everything, and I do not hold hostages. And that's the best I could call it. We had a client come over from another company, and they charged her $50 to transfer the domain ownership to her, which is baloney. I mean, the domain costs $15 a year, and it takes all of 5 seconds to make the transfer. And to me, charging somebody $50 because they don't want to be a client anymore is holding hostages. I just don't believe in that. So if you own the website, you can never be held hostage. I get right. Asking for a backup is like asking for copies of the chart. And again, play dumb. You know, I'm just the dentist, and I told I need a backup. Give it to me. So design and development. Any questions so far? No. Okay. So do it yourself. You can certainly do it yourself. I can take out my own third molars, but it's going to take me all day, and I'm probably going to hurt people. So I don't take out third molars. It's just not what I do. I also don't do my own accounting. I could. It's just not what I do. So you can certainly build your own website if you'd like to. It's exciting. It's fun. But, you know, don't feel it's an undertaking. You know, I have an SEO course. I've got a Facebook ads course that I do hands-on, because those are things that are appropriate for a team member or for you to do to learn. Because, you know, 90% of what we do in search engine work can be done by you or a team member if you've got time. For a website, again, it's like a third molar. You know, yeah, an erupted tooth. There are too many things that can go wrong. There are too many little things, you know, that you have to know when taking out a third molar, that you're better off having a professional do it. And the same thing with the website. It certainly can be done, but to get it to Google standards, you just have to really know what you're doing. But certainly if you're a startup office or you're on a budget, you know, Wix is good. Oops, Wix, let me go back there. Wix is decent, or any of these builders that are, you know, $20 a month or something are fine. But I would still go with WordPress if you can, for all the reasons we discussed. Oh, and never ever rent a website. Some companies have a deal where you pay $0 down and $1,000 a month for all this combined marketing. And the problem is, it's like renting an apartment. And once you are done with them, or you decide you don't want to pay anymore, or you're not getting the results you wanted, then you have 0 equity and you start from the top. So I have said for a decade, do not rent a website. No secrets. I said to you before, you know, you can have the Google badge and the Google partner and this and this. I'll let you in on a secret. So the Google badge, you might see something that says it looks like this. There's like a G, and it says, you know, partner, blah, 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 like an ads partner. You do have to take and pass courses and get credentialing to get that badge. But you know what else you have to do? You have to spend a ton of your client's money. So you pass the test, and then Google looks and says, how much budget have you managed? And how do you get managing budgets? You spend clients' money. So I'm not saying that those people are good, those people are bad. I do AdWords campaigns. You know, I have someone I've been working with for 10 years who does our AdWords for us, for our clients. But I've never applied for the partner badge, because I just don't like the idea that part of my being able to be certified has to do with how much money I've charged other people. I don't like it. People will say, well, if, you know, they want, you know, that you know how to manage a large budget, but I don't think that's what makes me a good AdWords person. I think that, you know, the fact that I know my team knows what they're doing and gets results is more important than how much money, that, of how much of my client's money I've spent. Yeah, and again, there are no secrets. There's no, I'm going to build you a new website and I'm going to do something special, because it doesn't exist. Same thing like a crown. What do we have that's special? You've got a PFM, you've got all ceramic, and those are the crowns we have. There's nothing special. I put metal collar still on, on my lower and upper second molars. Is that special? Sure, but it is, but it's not a secret. There's no, there's no secrets. So when you're doing design, here are the things I want you to look at. You want responsive design. So there isn't a separate mobile version of your website. There is one website and it fits, based on the device. So here is my iPhone. And, if I have a website, and let me get a piece of paper here for this demo. A blank piece of paper here. Okay, so here's a piece of paper, and here's what your website might look like on the desktop. And then on the tablet, the website kind of smushes down to fit on the tablet. And then on the iPhone, it smushes down further to fit on the iPhone. You do not have this situation where here's the website I have on the desktop, and then here's a different one that I have for the tablet, and then here's the other one that I have, on the phone. No, it's one website, and it basically smushes down into the right size. That is responsive design. Think of it like a liquid that fits the container. And there's a mobile-friendly test that you can check to see, are you mobile-friendly? Do you have that responsive design? That link is there. You type your website into Google and it will tell you whether you pass or you don't pass. Please, 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 please make it easy to get in touch. Make sure that when you visit the site on mobile, you can push the button and click to call. You can check that right now. You got to be able to click to call and have prominent contact information. If here's your web page and here's your header, here's your footer, here's your logo, you want to have your phone number right there. Because that's where everyone expects it to be. That's where you want it on every single page. Because what some people will do is they'll get all fancy, they put the phone number right down here, because we don't want an ugly phone number up here. Well, that's silly, because when you look at user interface and user experience, you want to do what's best for the user. We always say that, a patient says, oh, I can't lean back that far. And I say, how do you go to sleep at night? I say, you have to lean back for 20 minutes. I got to lean all day. So do me a favor, but you've got to cater to, in this case, to the user, and don't get fancy with your dental website. Get fancy with, if you have a photography website, where it looks like this, and there's navigation here and photos there, and it scrolls, all this crazy stuff, fine. But not on your company website. Follow interface standards. So every website should look like this, or some variation thereof. And this is just a crown prep, right? You have an impression, right? And you've got your crown, and you've got your margin, right? So every crown impression should look like that. Right? No matter what it is, no matter what you're doing, every crown prep looks like that. So, same thing for here. There's no variation. If you have a crown prep that looks like this, they can't make a crown out of that. There's a pull, so we know what it's supposed to look like. And there are reasons why. And the same thing over here. So social icons are important. My favorite lecture is social media for dentists who hate social media that I give, but they can't judge us. I do have patients who say, oh, let me see the x-ray. They're like, okay, here you go. What do you see? Tell me what you see. Where'd you go to dental school? But they can't judge us by looking at our bite wings. They judge us by knowing, do we look modern? Do we look clean? Do we seem to know what we're talking about? And social icons, for whatever reason, say to patients, this dentist must know what he's doing. A nice prominent logo. When you click the logo, it goes to the home page. Navigation, standard navigation, home, about. Again, this is standard. If you go to a website, home is usually all the way on the left, contact all the way on the right. It's there because those are web standards. Not because they're good, not because they're bad, but that is what the standards are. And, and again, click to call with a prominent phone number. Love this slide. So if I could make my own supermarket, I would make a supermarket where everything is in alphabetical order. I could have the Malamars next to the marshmallows, next to the meat, next to the matzah, next to the meatballs. It just makes sense to me. But if I had that supermarket, people would come in and they'd be like, what? Because they're not used to that. They're used to, what's the rule where like the produce is always on the left, then the frozen stuff is on the right, and the milk is in the back. So you can go to and you go on vacation and you go to the supermarket, the layout is exactly the same. And that's why your website should be exactly the same. In terms of the layout, there's a book called Don't Make Me Think. It's exactly that. If the person comes and has to say, well, where is this or where is that? Something isn't right. I don't know what it is, but I got that feeling. So I'm going to get out of here. And so that's really important to do. Use appropriate images. This has got to be 20 years ago. I was interviewing for a job here in New Jersey, and as a dentist. And I was in the office with the guy, and he said, "Oh, I got to go check on a patient. Why don't you look at my website?" And on the website there was a picture of like grandma filleted like a piece of salmon with the implants hanging out. I mean, it was it was an arch, and the arch was split, and the implants. And I was like, dear God! I mean, to me that looked great, but don't show like fillet of gingiva on your website. I mean, it scares the crap out of people. Now, if you want to do that, these are real live surgical pictures. Put a warning. Say something. Warning. You're going to see live pictures, but don't assume that everyone else likes the blood and gore that we like. So these are nice images. Here is here's a crown. Here's a partial. Here's bruxism. Just to give people an idea, you can certainly use pictures, but again, I don't want to see. You don't want blood. Alt tags. This is for your web developer. Say, do my images use alt tags? And the reason is because an alt tag describes an image. And so I can tell you, so Google's going to say, what is that an image of? Is that an image of a West Highland Terrier? Yes. Is it an image of a dog wearing denim? Yep. Is it an image of a well-groomed dog? Yep. Dog with sunglasses? Yep. A small dog? Yep. A calm dog? So what is it? Am I selling denim? Am I selling sunglasses? So what an alt tag does is describes the image, and it's a ranking factor. So if you and I happen to be selling sunglasses for dogs, that's our business, and our websites are great. Oh, we both have SSL, by the way. And we both have this image of the dog, and my alt tag says, sunglasses, and you don't have an alt tag, I might rank higher than you. Now, because this page is about sunglasses, sunglasses, sunglasses. Certainly, if you wrote, this is denim, it doesn't match up, so it doesn't matter. But the point is, whatever image you have, Google can't tell you. Google can read text that this says sunglasses. Google cannot read my intent to show you that because our sunglasses are so cool that even dogs wear them. That's my super marketing message. Google doesn't know that. And that's why you have to tell it that this is sunglasses, because that supports that this is sunglasses. Content is king. That hasn't changed. We talked about it. If I've got a page about veneers and you've got a page that has veneers, dentures, crowns, implants, this page is better 95% of the time. Because what do you want to do? You want to read 300 words about veneers or 100 words about each of these separate subjects? And so the rule is, if you want to rank for something, again, you've got to have content. So what we do, like a content dentist, I have a page about, in our implant package, we have a dental implants page, we have dental bridges, we have bone grafts, we have extractions, am I a candidate for dental implants? And all of them link together. So the extractions page is going to say, hey, when you get a tooth out, blah, 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 one option is an implant, but you probably want a bone graft, or they go to the bone graft page. Bone grafts are great if you have to have a tooth out, but with a bone graft, we want to do an implant. Oh, what if you can't have an implant? What if you have dentures? Well, we have implant dentures. So linking your content together helps Google search your website, and it also helps your users lead them where you want them to go. Because we know the path is this, right? Extraction, bone graft, implant. And that's the journey we want to lead. And look, it could be extraction to partial, or extraction to bridge. It depends on your practice. But either way, your extraction page should say, if you have an extraction and your practice, you're going to want to replace the space with a bridge or a partial or whatever. And that's how you tile your content in together. Formatting content This is really from my SEO course that talks about, like, we had mentioned here how, you know, you want the content to be in a certain way. This is like a class in and of itself, but the content should be formatted. This is Google standards. Colors matter. So check your colors. Red is bad, because remember, red usually means that something's wrong and green means that something's good. So if you have a call to action that says, you know, learn more, or it says, see our discounts, you know, read more, or whatever it is, call now, you don't want it in red because people immediately see red and say warning. Now, if you have a form and, you know, they're going to fill out your contact form, and here's name, you know, email, and then submit, and they don't use like the @ sign as part of an email, it might say in red, please use, you know, a proper email address. But think about colors and think about what cultures, like what colors, especially if you're in a certain area. Blue means different things in different parts of the world, and red and green suggest obviously be in tune to what, you know, your culture thinks of colors, because you'd be surprised how that really affects people. It really does. Page speed. Without getting into the weeds, speed is a ranking factor. Did I put speed as a ranking factor? So you should talk to your web people and say to them, you know, is my website ranking quick? Is my website loading quickly? You want it to load in about 3 to 4 seconds on average, maybe 3 to 5. And this here, again, is a ranking factor, but it's all about your competition. So if all of us here have websites and all of your websites load at 20 seconds, which is horrid, and mine loads at 9, I'm the winner. You know, because of the worst, I'm the best of the worst. However, I want to get mine to 3 to 4 anyway, regardless, because eventually you guys are going to wise up, you know, and get it down to, you know, 5 to 8 or lower than that. So I always want the site to be fast from the start, but again, it is relative. And once you are at, you know, 3 to 4 seconds, it's very easy to go from 20 seconds, you know, to 4 seconds. It's really hard to go from 4 seconds to 3 seconds, or from 3 to 2. And I wouldn't waste your time and money getting to that speed, because it's diminishing returns. You've got to start really like plucking things away. It's kind of like when you look at your budget. All right, what am I going to cut out? I got to cut out Hulu. I got to cut out Netflix. Which one are we going to cut? And so, you know, when you get to that little nitty gritty, you're like, well, what show do I like the least? It doesn't matter at that point. So that's why you want to get the big things out. Like, I'm not going to lease that Ferrari anymore for $5,000 a month. Okay, so it's much easier to make that decision and much more effective than worrying about, you know, the little things. Questions? Okay, hints about the process, legal stuff. Without an agreement, you have no proof of either party's responsibilities, so please have an agreement. And it's critical because you need to know, you know, what do I have to give them? Is there a deadline for you? Is there a deadline for them? And you have to know what's included and what isn't. You might find that, wait a minute, I thought we were going to do that reviews module, or I thought I owned everything. And the only way that you know you have ownership of anything, at least for the website itself, is if you've got it in the agreement. Same thing. And for fees, change fees, you know, if I'm building a site, how many revisions do we get? What are my monthly fees? And if I want to change something, is it $100 every time I want to change that, you know, I took another CE course, or that, you know, we bought, we bought a new Panorex. That's what a Panorex looks like. We bought a new Panorex. And so I want to, you know, add a page about that. You know, how much is that going to cost me? It's important to know. Legal, accessibility. You know, I give an entire lecture about accessibility, and the real problem is that the government is not clear on what accessibility means, and judges across the country have said things that are different. They have said that it's pretty clear that if you go to the supermarket and there's no handicap accessible ramp, that you're in trouble. But if your website is not accessible for people with disabilities, is that a problem? And the answer is, I don't know. And the law changes, and the problem is right now there is no law. There's a recommendation from the government, like government websites have to do a certain thing. And so what happens is there's no checklist that says, that's easy. Here's what you have to do to be compliant. It doesn't exist. So what I like to do is there's a free accessibility statement on contentdentist.com you can get. I like to use getterms.io, no relationship with them. They have a free, privacy policy generator. And for WordPress, we use it's userway.org or something like that. It's userway, USERWAY is a free plugin for WordPress that makes your site more accessible. And without getting into the weeds, the problem is what happens is a lawyer will look at your will run a program that shows that you have certain flaws in your website for accessibility. And they'll say, all right, doc, give me $5,000 and fix it. And you give them the $5,000 because you don't want to get sued, because you could spend $100,000 in court proving that, hey, you know what? It would cost me $50,000 to bring it up to standards. And A, the law says, there's no law that says I have to. And B, I can't afford that. My entire marketing budget is $20,000 a year. I can't afford $50,000. So sometimes it's cheaper just to pay them off, which is why, and I hate that idea, which is why it's much easier to just do what you can to kind of minimize, your exposure. So, I used to laugh because I would put the club, I had a 2003 Ford Escape with like 100 and change thousand miles on it. The windows were taped on, and I put the club on it so nobody stole it. And my friends laughed at me. But I'm like, you know what? It's a deterrent. They're like, no one's stealing your car, even if you left it unlocked. But I'd rather you at least see this as a deterrent, as opposed to let them go to somebody else. So due diligence questions. Here are the due diligence questions that you ask when you're getting a site or rebuilding a site. And the answer: who owns the website? You own the website. Who owns the content and the images? You own the content and the images, or they're licensed to you. If you want to change vendors, can you take your website with you? The answer should be yes. Inevitably, I have clients that leave. I do, and that's fine. And when they leave, we say, we're sorry, we wish blah, 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 blah. Take your website. It's yours. None of this hostage taking. So, and that's, again, you own the backups, because if they say to you, no, we're not doing that. Well, if you have the backup and you own your name, you can do whatever you want. If there's an all-in-one package, what happens if you change your mind? If you're renting a site, I'm telling you, everything gets taken down. And so, but if you change your mind, are you stuck for the year? And undoing of rankings. This is a lie. There is no such thing. So what a company will tell you is that, Dr. Smith, if you don't work with us anymore, all the work we did for your rankings is going in the toilet. That is garbage. That's baloney. Because think about it like a crown. We cemented your crown. Now, if you don't come every 6 months for cleanings, you might have some issues with decay because, you don't own a toothbrush. But in terms of the crown, I have cemented the crown. I have, the crown is in, margins are closed. It is yours. Whether you stay here or you move to Mars, the crown is yours. And for them to undo your rankings, they would have to actively do something malicious. That's like me undoing your crown. Oh, I see you're changing jobs or you're moving because you don't like me. Okay, let me just put let me just take a crown cutter and slice a hole in the buckle of the crown to punish you. That's undoing your crown. So they will try and scare you with that. It doesn't happen. And if it does happen, it's malicious, and that's, I don't know, it's assault on a website. It should not be done. Free websites, no, because free websites are not free. The website's free, but you're paying X amount a month for marketing, probably for a year, and you're locked into that contract. And again, if you're not getting performance after 4 months, what makes me think you're going to get performance in 8 more? Plus, on those notes, please measure. If you are not measuring, you have no idea what's happening. I was lecturing a couple of years ago at Zimmer, I think it was, and I said, how many people said, let's say you have an SEO campaign to drive traffic to your website. And here's month number 1, how many visitors? Here's month number 2. If we started at 100 visitors, how many visitors did we get? Forget about new patients. Let's say you're spending $750 a month or whatever it is on SEO. And I'd say, okay, don't raise your hands. I don't want to embarrass anybody. How many people know, just forget the number of visitors that came last month. And now that you spent this much money, how many visitors came this month? Okay, how many people know to the penny what the lease on their Mercedes is? I know. So it's fine, but we pretend that somehow these numbers don't matter, and they matter. Because the only way that you can hold me accountable as a marketer or as a vendor is if there's data. Because if we don't have data, right, for in the office, we can hold people accountable because we know what our numbers are. We know the production numbers. So we know, well, how come we only had 3 crowns that month? Oh, that's because you were on vacation for 4 weeks, Dr. Wank. Oh, okay, that makes sense. But without knowing what the numbers are, you're rolling the dice, and you can't make any good decisions about marketing or anything without knowing what the data is. I mean, you're going to buy a house and you're not going to ask what the interest rates are. That's crazy. Yes. And spending money on services without knowing A, what it costs, and B, more importantly, what are your results going to be? Or at least what are your measurements? How are you going to measure the data? And then what do you expect? Do we expect it to go up, to go down, and why? And that's can we explain if something went up or something went down? Because without doing that, you're throwing money away. Pre-launch checklists. If you are building a site or even on your own website right now, check for typos. There's nothing more disturbing than a really nice website that has a typo. And I'm guilty of it myself. Check for broken links. Just look at your web pages. Oh, there should be check for any kind of links. But check for broke. See, we can cross it out with a pen. Make sure that your links are working. Make sure that your videos work. And look at your site on a smartphone and a tablet. I made a big boo-boo. I launched our Facebook course, the early bird special for our Facebook course for April about 2 weeks ago, and I didn't check it on mobile thoroughly. And there was a thing where like the title for the course didn't wrap properly. I was like, oh my gosh, I've done it so many times that it doesn't apply to me because I could do it, and I messed up. I mean, I fixed it, but even I messed that up. So it happened. So just look at your website and see what it looks like, and make sure it looks the same. Redirects, we're going to skip for now. Okay, data. And again, here's all I want to know. And in my SEO course, the first thing we do is we look at numbers. Because if I know what's working, then I want to do more of it with you. If I know what makes you money, then I want to make more money with you. And so it's called a key performance indicator. And so, for example, the 3 basic ones that I want to know are, how many new patients are we getting a month? And what does it cost me to get a new patient? So if I get 10 new patients a month, and on average, it costs me $100 to get a new patient, and then I want to know, of that, what is the average lifetime value of a new patient? And let's say the average lifetime value of a new patient, is $10,000. Let's just say, go into Dentrix, go into your software and see what the average yearly value of a patient is. You can see, well, is it worth spending $100 to get 10,000? Yes. Is it worth spending 1,000 to get 10,000 over 10 years? Maybe not. Because with overhead, the number's really like 6, right? So you have to know how many new patients a month you're getting, and what is the cost per acquisition, and what is their value. Because if you're getting 5 new patients a month, and those are all, implant overdenture cases or whatever, they're all $6,000 cases, I'm a happy guy. But if they're 5 and they're all, the $99 exam, x-rays, and hygiene, and the patients can't afford any other work, so they're done, these are 2 very different number 5s. And so I want to market to these people, not to these people for you. And so what's the number of new patients? What does it cost to get one? And what is the lifetime value? Because here, if it costs me $100 to get, that should be a 1 in there, to get this $99 patient, that's a waste of money. If it costs me $100 to get that, overdenture patient, shoot, maybe I spend $500, because if they're going to get an implant overdenture, they're back at least twice a year for this and that, and so So that's why these numbers are so important. And the sources of new patients. That is, going to let me write on this slide? Yes. The sources of new patients are also really important. I was working with a dentist, and we looked at her, what color can we write on this? Write in black. We looked at her run from the software, and it showed it was something like in the last 9 months, the average production for new patient for the year for a patient that came from like direct mail was something like, I forget, it was like $2,000. The average production from somebody from the web was $6,500. She was like, oh my God, like I had no idea. And I'm like, well, you have to look. And she had spent, let's say, nothing really on the website. It had spent a ton of money on direct mail. But it turns out that yes, direct mail did work, but the types of patients she got from the web were better than the types of patients she got from direct mail. And with that, then holy cow, well, if we're getting this much per year per new patient, and we're not spending money on marketing, well, then maybe it makes sense to spend some money on marketing that website because we know it works. And that's what I want you all to be able to do, to find out what works and then do a lot more of what works, but you can only do it with the data. So post-launch checklist, we're going to skip this for now. We talked about this, check the padlock, make sure it's responsive. Send yourself a test form on your website. We all have contact forms. I hope you do. Go to your contact form and actually submit a contact request to yourself and make sure you get it. We got a new client come to us this week. And last night I was working on his site for the first time and I had to reset a password. And I said, Doc, your website isn't sending email. He said, what? I said, yeah, it's not sending email. So send yourself a test, click to call, and you can test your website speed. So next steps and monthly services. So once you've launched a site or rebuilt your site, the next thing that you want to do in general is a traffic versus messaging study, or to look at the data and see what's working or not working and make a diagnosis. If you are so busy that you're up to your eyeballs in patients, and great, then you can put this aside for now. But if you're not, and you're like, why am I not getting new patients? Is my website working or not working? I mean, I did a consult with someone in LA about 2 weeks ago, and we did this. I looked at her site and I said, you know what? You are a fee-for-service practice in an incredibly large area with, it's a little bit, higher blue collar, and you're fee-for-service, and there's 100 insurance dentists around you. So no matter what we do with you, you're going to have a really hard time. And I don't want to, blow smoke up your, what, and tell you that, oh, we're going to spend all this money and do all this stuff. And I said, you're in trouble in the nicest way, because that is the reality on the ground. Here's your area. There's a dentist every 2 feet. They take insurance, and you are right here, and you are fee for service. So how are we going to set you apart? And that becomes a huge messaging issue for us. And so, yeah, it makes sense for us to still do the study to see what works, but understand that with her, it's really limited. And so what we're going to have to do with that is then, unfortunately, spend money, on advertisement, because that's, make sure the messaging on this website is great and spend money on ads to get people there, because it's such stiff competition, you're going to have a hard time, cutting through. And the kicker is you may not need to spend money. Holy cow. Because if your website's built to standards and you have all the pages you need and there are not a lot of competitors, you might be doing just fine. I mean, I've had people where I've done studies, somebody called me and said, I'm getting 70 new patients a month. And I said, stop there. I said, you want to work for me? What is it you're trying to do? And his website, let me tell you, was one of the ugliest things I've ever seen. And I said to him, honestly, I said, listen, this website is ugly. It looks like it was built in 1974. But you know what? You're getting 70 new patients a month. Don't touch it. I don't know what more you want. Certainly you could do a study to see what's working, but I'd be very reluctant to touch something that works, especially even if it is not what I think it should look like. Because you know why? Because clearly whatever the message is, it's working. It is getting through to your demographic, so don't touch it. But he wanted to go somewhere and spend money, and I said, go spend money. I wouldn't touch this. But you might not need other services. You just might not need them. So monthly service examples. Search engine optimization is something that when we research keywords to try and drive traffic to your website. Pay-per-click is where you have ads and you pay when people click on the ads. Content writing, more content gives you more traffic, we hope. And conversion optimization, we talked about, that's the cement. That's what cement is working best. Or, if I've got 100 people and nobody's calling, then I need to figure out why nobody's calling before I start sending more traffic. Now, maintenance. You're going to pay me X amount of money a month for maintenance. Great. What's maintenance? What does that entail? And are there required monthly fees? So for us, for example, listen, if my clients email me and say, should I cut the red wire or the blue wire? I say, cut the red wire. I'm not charging you. I'm not your lawyer. I'm not charging you every 6 minutes. But So we charge a flat rate for maintenance no matter what we do. We charge $175 an hour. And if it takes me 7 minutes, I charge you for 7 minutes. If it takes me 67 minutes, I charge it probably for 60 because I'm too lazy to go up to 7. As a dentist, I'm not used, we're not used to like, well, lidocaine was this, you need another half a block. That's it, so, but what are you getting for maintenance? And so our clients know, as an example, hosting with us is $65 a month. And for that, we check WordPress to make sure it's up to date. We make sure your backups are rolling, and we make sure that your site is up and running quickly. That's it. And then past that, if you need us to do anything else for you, in general, it's $175 an hour, because I don't think it's fair to charge every client $300 a month for some kind of Dentrix-like retainer if you don't need me. But this way, if for $65 a month, everyone needs that certain level of service. If they want to, I just started working with GatherUp for reviews. They want to do that, they can certainly do that. But just, but if a client wants to do their own updates, why should they have to pay the same amount as a client who doesn't want to do their own updates? So for us, maintenance means, someone in the waiting room. Let me let them in here. So for us, maintenance means, add a web page, add an image, edit a page, make changes. Honestly, if you want us to add to your gallery, we have a client that's having a 10th anniversary. They are a medical practice in Hawaii, and we're adding a gallery for them. Same price. It's like, it's ridiculous. This is, it's that. So just make sure that you understand whenever you do an agreement with somebody, what counts as maintenance, because a lot of times they're going to send you reports. Is it in here? They're going to send you reports that are not good, because the report, it's going to be, so everyone who hosts with us gets a report that's generated by a computer. And I tell them, you know what? This is a report that you get that's generated from our software, and I don't look at it, and you don't pay for it. Because you want a report, here's a report. Because the truth is, unless there's actionable data in that report, it doesn't matter. And I'm not going to charge you for a report every month that doesn't really change anything. So I send it to the clients automatically. I don't even look. And if the client says, hey, listen, you know what? There's something in here. We talk about it? Sure, let's talk about it. Let's see if there's something to do. But you're going to get a report that's going to say, you had X thousands of visitors this month, which is wrong, because if you are here in Staten Island, so you might have had 900 visitors. From 900 visitors this month, I did a great job for you, right? Well, no, not if 80 of them were from Staten Island, because the rest of them were from somewhere else. So I can certainly take credit for getting you 900 visitors, but 820 of them are never coming anywhere near your office. So that's really not a fair assessment. And so all of these numbers, they're just going to send you generic numbers and say, look, you rank for all of these, you rank for 1,000 keywords. So, but are you ranking for keywords that people are searching for? So, if you want to rank for, let's say dentist, veneer dentist who has the office that's across from the mall where I really like to buy my dress shirts, you can rank first for that. But if nobody's searching for that, who cares? So for me to tell you that you rank first for keywords that nobody's searching for, well, look, Doc, you rank for 11 keywords, you rank first. And we have a total search volume for those of 0. So I want to know, like, for example, if you are, Staten Island dentist, that might be a good keyword. And, do I rank first for that or 99th for that? And is the keyword Staten Island dentist, or is it dentist Staten Island? Because those are different. And so dentist Staten Island might have 100 searches a month. I'm making this up. And Staten Island dentist might have, 20. So I want to optimize my page for this. So when you get these reports, I'd be very wary about paying for reports like that, especially because those reports are most often fluff, from my experience. Okay, just a couple more minutes and I'll wrap up. So what is SEO, just quickly, because everybody asks? SEO is the process by which we say to you, what services do you want to do? We research what people are searching for, and we try and play the match game with your website. So let's say it's veneers. You want to do veneers. Okay, so we do research and say, are people searching for veneers? And let's say they're searching for veneers Staten Island, and we see they're searching for veneers, dentist, and Staten Island, veneers, dentist. Each of these keywords or search terms is going to have a search volume. And let's say this one is 100, this one is 50, and this one is 2. And you told me, you said, I'm 100% sure that everyone here wants, what the heck's it called? What's the Lumineers? Because I love it, it's the best. Guess what? Nobody's searching for it. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, let's take a look. This is what the people in your area want in terms of veneers and lumineers. I know you want lumineers, but I'm telling you, your demographic doesn't. That doesn't mean you can't advertise it and make a page about it, but they don't want it. I can't sell you the time machine that I built in my garage if nobody wants it. So we would say, okay, it looks like veneer Staten Island, that's the keyword with the most search volume in our area. So let's go ahead now and let's optimize your veneers page. Here's that veneers page that we built to Google Standards. We're going to make it so that it's optimized for that keyword. That is what SEO is. Now, if there's 100 other dentists who've done that, and 100 have done this, well, you know what? Maybe only 2 have done this one. So, and maybe there's a bunch of other keywords that have smaller search volumes that we can work with also. But that's what search engine optimization is. It doesn't mean that I throw a website up there and then I say, hey, here's a report, here's a really thick report of all the things that you rank for. Who cares? I don't care if you rank first for lumineers if nobody's searching for it. And you're like, yes, I rank first for lumineers. But nobody's coming for that. So that's an important issue. So where does SEO fit in? If any of you are interested, for you or for your teams, I have done an SEO masterclass, and now I do an SEO community group. It's $49 a month, and it's 9 training modules. You do it on demand, and every month I have open office hours to ask questions where I walk you through, the exact process that I use with our clients. This is the process that any company that wants to, be successful with SEO, this is the way to do it, and I walk you through it. I have a masterclass where we do it, where we meet weekly. That's, $2,000. That's very personal, one-on-one. But if any of you wanted to try and learn it or have your staff learn it, this is something that's very effective because you can do 90% of the SEO on your own in general. But the steps are, just so you see it, is, you set up your accounts, you do an audit to make sure you're at Google Standards, we research our keywords, you work on local SEO to make sure that your Google My Business is filled out. Write that down. Make sure your Google My Business is filled out 100%. That's critical. Then we do off-page SEO, content, on-page in the next step. So comprehensive class. And I've had dentists who have taken it just so they understand the terminology when they go to talk to vendors. And then when we talk about organic versus paid SEO, whenever someone says SEO, they're talking about organic. And organic means based on your website. Pay-per-click is Google Ads. And so when we see here organic search, somebody here typed in used car dealer. And so Google said, what web pages match used car dealer? And that's what came up. That's based on, remember we just said back here, veneers Staten Island? That's based on who ranks the best or who's done the best job, most relevant for that keyword. You can't pay Google to change that. This is paid search, and we recognize this now. This you can pay to move higher. Obviously, there are differences in how much you can pay to get there. If you are selling, if you want to advertise for veneers, and you make an ad about, free illegal Microsoft Office, you could pay $1,000 a click, and Google's going to say, wait a minute, this is not a page about free Microsoft Office, so we're not going to rank you, because people are going to click looking for free Microsoft Office illegally and find veneers, and they're going to say Google stinks. So there is a limit, but the key here is that organic search, that's when we say SEO, it's organic search. That's based on the content of your pages. That can be changed, it can be worked on. Whereas paid search that's Google Ads, used to be AdWords, and that is, we're going to build these ads and we're going to say, Google, when somebody types in used car dealer, please make sure that my ad, shows on the side when someone does that search. That's a big difference. And then, I don't have time to get into this, but we're doing it now. starting April 12th, I'm doing a Facebook course on, this is the same thing, like what you got to do to get a Facebook ad going. And we're going to take, this is good for larger offers, like for implants or for Invisalign. We're going to generate the ads. We're going to plan the avatar. Sound familiar? We're going to plan our demographic. We're going to build a landing page with the offer, a thank you page, and have them call you, or you're going to call them. And we're doing that. This course right now is at $10.49. It's for a year of access, and we do weekly calls with me. It's a 9-step course, 9 weeks. Then some quick breaking news. If you're running Facebook ads, you're going to have to verify your domain. So don't be surprised if that comes to you from your Facebook people. Here are the resources that I can send to anybody if they want them. Here's the link for the book, the link for the Facebook group. This course, I think, is $99, the analytics course, community training, Facebook training, and my website. I can send you any of this if you want it. Thank you much. And here is my, oops, let me leave it up there, my contact information. Thank you very, very much for your patience. So let me open up the unmute everybody. Giovanni, can you unmute everyone?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Do you have, well, I'll keep the share on so I have my contact information. Does anybody have any questions? You can unmute yourselves and ask questions if you'd like. No questions. Okay, well, Giovanni, thank you so much for having me. And thank you everyone for attending. I know it's a ton of material to get through. You know, that's why, you know, I showed you 3 SEO slides. That's why we've got, like, you know, a 9-week course on it. I mean, it's that, but that's, you know, I hope you at least got an overview and an understanding of at least what to ask your vendors. And everything I gave you was company agnostic. And if you have any questions, email me, get in touch with me. I can certainly take off my vendor hat and put on my colleague hat. I've got patients, you know, Wednesday through Saturday this week. So, but, you know, I certainly am happy to help you guys out and provide guidance if you need it.
Thank you so much, Dr. David Wank.
Thank you, sir.
I have a question for all the doctors. Sorry, it's like regarding study clubs.
Now, let me stop my share so you can get your screen back.
Again, thank you, Dr. David.
Thank you.
Wank.
Let me give you admin control back.
Yes, and you will be sending me the copy of the.
Yeah, I'll send you everything.
Okay. All right.
All right. Let me.
Do I have access now?
Make you the host. Yes, you are the host.
Okay, got it. Okay. So I normally host study clubs on Wednesdays, but does the Tuesday work for you guys as well? Or are there any days you guys would like me to host study clubs? There's a few of you, but a lot of you normally participate, you know, each time I send out a course invite. So I just want to get some feedback of what works with you guys. I think, hold on. Let me unmute everyone.